Huxley Middle School Data Overview. Presentation by Cinnamon Brown, Brian Majuru, and Zarina Nicholas. Huxley Middle School is located in the Virginia metropolitan area. It is serves grades 6 through 8th. It has its third principal in 5 years. Her name is Miss Smith. The campus is small. It's relatively small. It's a tight and deep-rooted community in the area. The school is pretty much the center for many community activities. Um, it has not met benchmark for state accreditation. There's a lot of teacher and staff turnover rate at the school. The teachers do not follow the mandated curriculum that has been offered to them. And the building is pretty old, it's outdated, the electronics need to be updated, the media center needs to be updated, and the building itself, like I said, needs some renovations. Now we're going to discuss the population of the student enrollment. As you can see, there's been a steady decline since 2013 of about 100 students in the past 3 years. As you can see, from 2013, it went from 572 to 495 in 2014, and then currently to 458 in 2015. And the question is, we wanted to uncover why is the student enrollment dropping? And it could be for a lack of school resources. It could be the location of the school. It may not be the safest area, and parents may be and unenrolling their students from the school for just a lack of safety, resources, um, and also because it is in Washington D.C. Charter schools are obviously a big trend there, and they seem to be deemed more safe, more productive for students. They have more resources for students to succeed, and that could be one of the major reasons why there is a steep decline in student population enrollment.
School demographics at Huxley Middle School mostly show a majority of students being in the subgroup Black or African American. There has been a slight increase in this subgroup of students from 93% to 95%. The subgroup of students identified as white fell below 10% in the school's population throughout the span of 3 years. The subgroup identified as white decreased from 4.5 to 1.5 in the past 3 years. All the other subgroups remain under 1% of the school's population. Although there has been a decline in enrollment, the attendance of all subgroups are well above a 90% over the past 3 years. The pass rate in reading at Huxley Middle School continues to be below the district and state levels. As you can see on the graph to the left, there has been a slight improvement in the scores throughout the last 3 years. Unfortunately, the reading scores at Huxley Middle School continue to be twice as low when compared to the district scores, and almost 3 times as low when compared on a state level. Unfortunately, the African American students continue to perform well below when compared to the district and state levels. For example, the most recent year of 2015-2016, 39% of Black or African American students passed, while 56 passed on a district level and 66% passed on a state level. In the school year of 2015-2016, pass rates in other subject areas were extremely low for Huxley Middle School. In math, students' pass rate was at a 29%, reading at a 39%, science 42%, history 62%, and writing being the lowest at a 20%. Although reading is not the lowest performing subject for students, choosing reading as a focus can improve all subject areas. Also, being a Title I school, perhaps the school budget could allocate funds for literacy. As noted on the right side of the slide, the subgroup of Black or African American students continue to stagger behind by a considerable percentage when compared to African American students on district and state levels.
Thank you, Brian and Zarina, for taking us up to this point. Now I will discuss the data presented for the standards of learning results in reading. As seen on the previous slides presented by Serena, we noticed that over the past 3 years, although the school has seen some growth in reading, there is still a decline in growth when compared to both the division and the state level. This decline is particularly concerning for African American students, which make up the majority of the student population. In the graph on your left, you will see the growth progression in reading for Huxley Middle School. We notice how during the 3 years, students in grades 6 and 7 have shown gains in reading. However, in 8th grade, there was a slight decline in gains, followed by a significant drop in gains. On the graph to your right, you will see the data for how African American students perform in reading at Huxley. Again, you will notice in grades 6 and 7, there are some notable gains, and in 8th grade, there was an increase in gains, and then there was a slight decrease. As we examine the data, we notice that 8th grade is concerning to us. We are motivated to find out the cause of this decline in performance. Based on what we know, this can possibly be contributed to inconsistencies in following a mandated curriculum, lack of technology use, and a decline in staff and student motivation. Based on what we have already learned from previous slides, we determined that our instructional focus should be cross-curricular literacy instruction. As indicated in the data presented, African American students have struggled to make gains in all subjects over the past 3 years. Although African Americans are the majority, they have shown the least amount of growth in all subject areas and across grade levels. Moreover, cross-curricular literacy instruction is essential to deeper learning. These type of curriculum connections make learning more meaningful to students. When students see connections between individual subject areas, the material becomes more relevant. Although the reading scores are not the lowest, it will help to build valuable literacy skills in all other subject areas and improve the test scores. We have identified several additional data points needed to determine our learner-centered problem. We will need to look more closely at performance data to show us grade level alignment of specific reading skills. Student work samples will show us learning gaps among African American students and gaps in instruction. Teacher content assessments can give us more insight to curriculum pacing and what skills were missed and how often. The inventory of instructional initiatives can help us to see which programs are helping our students be successful and which ones are not. Teacher observation data can tell us which skills are taught and if content matches the standards. Title I resources can tell us how materials are being used and which materials are used for each subject and how many we have. Lastly, the professional development calendar can tell us what the areas of focus were for professional development, and focus groups can tell us more about staff and student motivation at Huxley Middle School. These are the resources that we use for this presentation. We look forward to hearing your feedback.